Tucker Carlson does not care at all about what's true. He cares about narratives. More than anything, it's about narratives. If he finds something that serves a narrative that he wants to push, then he'll bring it on a show and push it, no matter if it's based in reality or based in fantasy. Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News. It was kind of unceremonious. It came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting it. Tucker didn't seem to be exactly expecting it either. It came out of left field. There's a lot of speculation as to why that happened. Some people are saying that it's because of the comments he made in private communications about Fox executives that angered them. There was a report that came out yesterday that it could have been because of
Burns
Tucker Carlson's
is an immoral,
conversations
corrupt,
he's had with
man.
Rupert. I think it was Roger Ailes' almost wife that he was engaged to, but then didn't go through with marrying. There's a lot of speculation as to why it is. I would say it probably in large part has to do with the $787.5 million, nearly $1 billion, the Dominion lawsuit cost the company, and how much they, forked out to stop Tucker Carlson from testifying under oath, which if he lied while testifying under oath, he couldn't just get away with it like he does on his show all the time, because Fox has zero ethics when it comes to journalism and holding their journalists to account. Like when Tucker Carlson said that for every one Russian that dies, there's 7 Ukrainians that die. Complete nonsense, complete hogwash. Or whether it was his recent suggestion about a week ago that Ukraine could have nuclear weapons, just insane nonsense. So I'm leaning more towards that. But finally, we're getting a response from Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was quiet for the 48 hours following this. He didn't put out a statement. A bunch of journalists tried to contact him and get a word from him. He wouldn't respond to anyone. He wouldn't say anything. All we knew is that he hired some hotshot lawyer to resolve this with Fox, since Tucker Carlson had a contract that was supposed to go on for a few more years. It doesn't just snap out of existence just because Fox says you're gone. So they have to resolve that. I'm sure Tucker Carlson is going to try to get every penny he can out of this. No matter what, even if Fox thought this was the best financial decision for them moving forward because of the Dominion lawsuit, not wanting to run into something like that again, considering Tucker lies on a near daily basis, Tucker is going to make sure it's as financially damaging to them as possible, and he can reap as much out of it. But we're finally getting a response from Tucker Carlson. So with all this anticipation, everybody's been paying attention to this video. It's already been viewed 17.4 million times. I saw some people saying like, oh my gosh, like over 50 million views. That's not how Twitter views work. Twitter views are kind of scuffed. If you scroll past the video on Twitter, for example, this right there, that's a Twitter view. If I was to just scroll past a video like this, see that? You see how I viewed that tweet down there? That's a Twitter view. Pretty silly. So just look at the plays, which is like 1/5 of it, 17.4 million. Still substantial, much larger than what Tucker Carlson show usually does in prime time, which is from like 3 million to 4 million views. So obviously people are paying attention. So I want to hear what Tucker has to say, and then we have to talk about how Fox News is possibly leveraging dirt against Tucker Carlson to muffle his statement. So think about that in the back of your head, because we have a report we're going to read in a second from the Rolling Stone about how Fox has a bunch of Oppo research on Tucker, and they're holding it over his head so that if he tries to trash the company as he leaves, they can pull the trigger on it. They can bring about all of those like workplace complaints that he's gotten for being toxic, all of his misogynistic complaints, all the complaints about him being misogynistic at work, and all the other dirt they have on him, and they'll release it. And so he's muffling his statement in order to stay out of the heat that Fox could give him. Hamza Prime 5, thank you for the tier 1 and being sub for 2 months. I appreciate it. Okay, let's watch. Let's see what he has to say. So think about it. Is this statement muffled? Is this different than what Tucker Carlson you would think he would do if he was completely unrestrained by some consequences, which he usually is on the Fox network? Let's listen.
Good evening, it's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people, people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also. A lot of those. It's got to be
To be clear, Tucker Carlson does not care at all about what's true. cares about narratives. More than anything, it's about narratives. If he finds something that serves a narrative that he wants to push, then he'll bring it on a show and push it, no matter if it's based in reality or based in fantasy. That's why he was able to say on his show that for every 1 Russian that dies, 7 Ukrainian dies in the military, even though it's complete nonsense. And it was quite literally just manipulated documents, the leaked documents, the Jack Sextera documents. It was manipulated by someone online, possibly Russian government agents, who knows. And there's an edited version of it online that was manipulated that edits the, for every 2.5 Russians that die, 1 Ukrainian dies, they try to flip it and make it 7-1 in the other way, which is pretty crazy. But the edit isn't even good. The area where it's edited is discolored. The numbers are kind of cut off in parts, showing, it's just very clearly edited. The rest of the documents that are leaked references the original statistic. It's not a good edit, right? The spaces between all the letters are messed up. It doesn't match the rest of the document. It's not a good edit, but he took it and he ran with it because it served a narrative, and he never corrected it. Nobody at Fox ever corrected it. They never issued a correction. And when it was repeated later on a show by Robert Kennedy, who's trying to pretend he can become president, he just backed him up on it. And he didn't issue a correction then, even though by then someone must have told him, even if it was just through the grapevine or he just saw a tweet, that he was pushing false numbers.
The majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them.
Tucker, M, and M. I mean, is he not part of this? Is he not part of... I mean, come on. This pot calling the kettle black a little bit, isn't it? Isn't it?
Trust me, as someone who's participated.
Okay, when he says he's participated, that makes it sound like, hey, he was a part of it, but an unwilling participant that Fox made him do it. But I really don't buy that. I think he chose a lot of these stories himself. I'm sure he had a decent amount of editorial control, or I guess we're going to find out if he had a lot of editorial control from how his content changes as he probably makes his own show, either as on the independent scene, like, tries to Joe Rogan it, or if he like joins OAN, Newsmax, one of these like somewhat bigger, but they're not bigger than Fox, of course, but somewhat bigger right-wing news outlets, or rags as I would call them. I guess we're going to see that in the near future.
And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of those issues?
Burns is an immoral, morally corrupt,
I don't know. Like these are issues that I hear people talk about all the time. And he had the #1 like show on news. He had the #1 cable news show. If anyone's partially culpable for the state of American partisanship and the state of the conversation around politics in this country, it's him. It sounds like he's trying to say this as like an observer, but he's not an observer. He was an active participant. He's one of the main ones pushing the culture war. The culture war is the big issue. Policy is downstream of culture. We got to hit on culture, whether it's on trans bathrooms or if it's on any of the other cultural issue he's snagged his fingers into. This again just feels like pot calling the kettle back. Lee Slippers, thank you so much for gifting a tier 1 sub to Istro Lycos. I appreciate it.
It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. Suddenly, the United States looks very much like a one-party state.
I mean, it's a 2-party country. I don't know how it's a 1-party state. The Republicans control the House. Usually in 1-party states, the opposing party doesn't control a legislative body. If you go to North Korea, you don't hear about, oh, did you hear that the Green Party, the Green Party actually controls 60 to 70% of the seats. Yeah, they're about to impeach Kim Jong-un. Did you hear? Oh, that really sucks for him. That doesn't really happen. Also, like in the media landscape, you have MSNBC, you have Fox, you have CBS, you have CNN. There's a bunch of different publications that have a lot of different perspectives that they show on those platforms. Now, do I think it's enough perspectives? No. But to say it's a one-party state is unbelievably reductive, especially since he's one of the main people pushing partisanship and hardcore partisanship, hate your neighbor partisanship, which he pushes regularly on his platform. You could say two-party state. I think that would be fair or fair enough. But one party saying, he's just being hyperbolic as usual.
That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force. But it won't work.
What force? This is very vague. He doesn't mention it. What force? What force is he talking about? Like he got fired. Is that the force? Getting fired because caused your company $787.5 million. If I cost Twitch $787.5 million, I have a weird feeling that they would not hesitate in banning me.
Honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment. They become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe.
The iron law of the universe.
Things prevail.
True things prevail? That's the iron law of the universe? True things prevail. Well then, okay, so anytime someone wins, or any side wins, the truth won. It's just true things prevail. It's just all, okay, sure, buddy.
Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
Okay, so this is an interesting statement. Like, it's pretty vague. Okay, it's not really an interesting statement. I'm overhyping it. It was pretty bland. It was pretty boring. Like, I can be like, oh, I can nitpick here, nitpick there, and I did my best to, right? I'm trying to make as much content out of this as I can, but it's not as impactful as I thought it was going to be. I mean, Tucker Carlson is known for his rants. He's known for being aggressive. He's known for not holding back. He's known for being on the edge of what is even just like not only socially acceptable, but sometimes even legally acceptable, as we see from the Dominion lawsuit. So why so toned down, especially now since he doesn't have to please a boss? He doesn't work at Fox anymore. Why is Tucker Carlson so mild here? A lot more Mike Pence than the Carlson that we usually know. And the Rolling Stone seems to have a reason, an explanation. And it's that they've produced an exclusive report saying that Fox has a secret opposition file, Oppo file, dirt on Tucker to keep him in check. 8 sources tell the Rolling Stone that the network's top brass have been stockpiling information on the departing primetime host. Fox News executives have in their possession a dossier of alleged dirt on Tucker Carlson should he attack the network in the wake of his departure, 8 sources at and close to the network tell the Rolling Stone. When Fox announced Carlson's departure on Monday, the network presented the separation as amicable. But according to one former on-air personality, the anchor and some of the channel's top executives are parting ways on the worst and messiest possible terms. Indeed, in private communications released last month as part of the Dominion Fox lawsuit, the now fired Fox host gossiped that one such exec hated us, claiming she was covertly working against him and others. But if Carlson attempts to torch the network he's leaving, Fox is prepared, the sources say. 8 people familiar with the situation tell the Rolling Stone that Fox News and its communications department, long led by the notoriously aggressive Irina Bergatti, has assembled damaging information about Carlson. One source with knowledge calls it an Oppo file. Two sources add that Fox is preparing to disclose some of its contents if execs suspect that Carlson is coming after the network. The file includes internal complaints regarding workplace conduct, disparaging comments about management and colleagues, and allegations that the now former primetime host created a toxic work environment. Really? Tucker Carlson toxic? Never. Carlson is currently facing a lawsuit from a senior booking producer, Abby Grossberg, alleging a toxic and misogynistic workplace environment. The lawsuit details repeated instances of misogynistic behavior at the network, including frequent lewd and sexual discussions of female guests and public figures. Grossberg continued to endure a work environment that subjugates women based on vile sexist tropes, typecasts religious minorities, and belittles their traditions, and demonstrates little to no regard for those suffering from mental illness. Fox denied the allegations when the lawsuit was filed, saying the claims were without merit. Okay, we're almost done and we can talk about this. A network spokesperson denied the existence of the file on Carlson. This is patently absurd and categorically false, the spokesman said in a statement to Rolling Stone. We thank Tucker for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. Many sources within the network disagree. Irina will never be shy about using these things, says one network source who is familiar with Carlson-related complaints. Okay, now this goes on to show a bunch of other examples of, Fox employees and Fox management execs doing this to people, including like Bill O'Reilly and Stuart Varney, and it goes on into all the details. But when they say that this isn't happening at Fox, I don't really believe them. And I think they might be wiggling it, they might be being a little cheeky about it, where, well, Fox, the company, in work emails might not have an Oppo file on Tucker Carlson, but maybe the specific exec could have Oppo research on Tucker Carlson privately that she could then utilize for the company. This 100% is something that I've even heard about before this happening at Fox News. This is something that seems to have multiple sources confirming it, not just in Tucker's case, but this seems to be not really industry standard, but seems to be standard for Fox, that they engage in this type of behavior. And it's not that crazy when you think about it. Fox News works with a lot of scummy people, a lot of backstabbers, a lot of people you can't really trust too much. You certainly can't trust them as reporters, and you certainly can't trust them to give you correct and factual information. If Tucker Carlson is willing to lie to his audience and willing to undercut support for Ukraine based upon lies, a country facing mass slaughter, murder on almost like an industrial scale, with the largest mass grave in Europe being uncovered in Izium, over 440 bodies, the largest mass grave since the Yugoslav genocides. What type of ethics does Tucker Carlson hold himself to? If somebody crosses him, what will he do to them? Ukraine didn't even do anything to Tucker, and see what he says about them. What would he say about the Fox execs that take away his primetime cushy job that if I find it hard to believe he'll be able to recover from? I'm sure he'll have an audience, whatever job he has after this, whether he goes the Joe Rogan route or he goes on some other network. But it's hard to imagine he's going to get as high as the #1 rated show in cable news. It's hard to believe he's going to get to that level again. Over 3.3 to 4 million viewers when he's on his program. Hard to believe. And so him fighting back, shooting back, and having something to act as a deterrent from them, firing him, as in he would, have a negative response and go after them, would be in his benefit. But he's not pulling the trigger on anything. He hasn't said anything negative about Fox News. Nothing. He didn't say a single thing in that entire monologue that was negative about Fox. Isn't that strange? I mean, I understand that maybe somebody can, garner a respect for their workplace, but we're talking about Tucker Carlson getting fired in really negative, bad terms here. Somebody who doesn't hold back at all and has gotten there, and due to the fact he can't hold back, has gotten his company in a lot of trouble. What's going on here? I think this Rolling Stone article has something to it, and that there might be someone working somewhere that has some information on him at Fox, and so he just is going to exit the door, continue with his life, and hope that they don't pull the trigger on it. I mean, that seems to be the most logical conclusion here. I mean, for those of you who doubt this, like maybe you're like, Fox wouldn't do that. I don't know why you would think that. But are you really going to tell me that people like Roger Ailes would really care about, oh, the ethics of doing Oppo research and threatening to release it if somebody leaves your company. This is extremely unethical behavior, by the way, from Fox. If they do this, this is very unethical. Like, this is basically like, I mean, it's basically blackmail. This is essentially blackmail. It is very unethical. But if two unethical entities could collide and crash each other, Fox crashes because its #1 most popular host goes after it, and Tucker crashes because Fox exposes him. There's a decent chance, by the way, that they don't have anything strong enough to actually bring him down. So maybe he wouldn't be completely exposed. There's a decent chance here, considering how popular he was, that Fox would actually get the worst of it. But I'm not so confident in saying that, since, you know, Tucker hasn't said anything. And so if he hasn't said anything, who has what? Who has what on him that's stopping him from saying anything? This is pretty scary for Tucker, and this is also pretty scary for Fox. This is a pivotal moment, and I'm interested to see if Tucker, after coordinating more with his lawyer, starts going on the offensive. I think maybe this is motivated by his lawyer telling him, just calm down, don't say anything yet, just wait, just wait, just wait. Put out a kind of bland statement to try to get some attention to your Twitter, get some attention to your socials, make sure people know that you're still kicking and you just, you know, you're not like in your apartment eating ice cream like a depressed, like somebody going through depression and needing a kick in the ass. But I think this Oppo thing has some backing to it. I really do. My goodness. What's next for Tucker? I'm curious to see what he does with his lawyer. I'm curious to see how he goes on the attack. Oh boy.